Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Kristi Scales.
Well, hello. Happy Tuesday. Happy New Year. We're here back to the basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but we're too afraid to ask. I'm Nikki Harrison here with Kristi Scales. And joining us today is our favorite, Kelli Finglass. Thank you for being with us today.
And I think Kelly's here because, you know, in L.A., we've already had last weekend a bit of an upset with her favorite, A Star is Born, not winning the Golden Globe for Best Picture. But maybe we get another upset this coming weekend with the Cowboys beating the Rams. So
I think you'd be for that,
right? Are you over here? Lift this microphone up there, Kelly, and tell us, are you over the Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga snub?
Well, I'll never be over Bradley Cooper, but actually, since we last spoke about the movies, I went to Bohemian Rhapsody. And I went to it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times I've been to Bohemian Rhapsody. I was completely blown away with it, the movie, Rami Malek, and I changed my opinion.
Oh,
wow.
I have my score sheet at my house to prove it. I am so pro Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm obsessed with it. So, no, I was thrilled when Rami Malek won Best Actor, and I was surprised but thrilled that it actually won Best Film. I think one of the sleepers that we haven't heard yet from the Academy is Green Book. Right. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't have an opinion about it, but A Star is Born didn't take home all the trophies this weekend.
And Green Book did take home
Green
quite
Book
a few.
took home not Best Actor, maybe it was supporting, Best Screenplay.
And supporting
actor.
Yes.
And
that
Mahershala
screenplays,
Ali.
yes, and he's wonderful, and screenplay's an important category in Hollywood. I think it visits a little bit of racism and the time and human connection and overcoming that. And I've got to see that because I don't know if Bohemian Rhapsody is going to take home the Oscar, but I'm obsessed with it. I don't know if it appeals
Well, I gotta
to
go
the...
see it.
I loved it.
You loved it.
I loved it.
See, I don't know much about Queen.
It's gotten a lot of
You don't have to, but you will.
Okay.
Neither did I, honestly. I mean, we danced to their songs, but you will learn so much about Queen and the musician and the artistry of their songwriting. Some of the things that appealed to me was just the way they really artistically created, like We Will Rock You, and they did things to get fan engagement in their music, and we're still playing at our football games now. So I loved that part of it.
And they were still hot the last time that the Cowboys and the Rams actually played each other in the playoffs.
Wow!
I mean, the Cowboys have been to the playoffs more times than any franchise in NFL history, even the ones that started back in the 20s. So this is the 33rd time that the Cowboys have made the playoffs. So that's a new record. But of all of the playoff games through the years in those 33 different seasons of playoffs, the Cowboys have played the Rams 8 times. That's tied for the most. Wow. But it's been since the mid-'80s since these two teams have met. And so it's been a long time, and that's back when, before they even moved to St. Louis and then back again. So
that's amazing.
There's a lot to look forward to this weekend. But we also have we have a lot of questions that we got in on Twitter and on through email. Then we want to get to those questions, and Kelly's going to work in some questions as well. So let's get started.
Well, I want to say, anyone watching, you can give us a call, 888-855-2297.
Ooh,
that's
is that new?
855-2297. I love it.
Wow,
Get all the
y'all are
DCC fans to call in.
Fancy.
Yes.
Well, I just have to say, I love the playoffs, and I know I'm not speaking for myself. Isn't the atmosphere around here just different?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, just a few moments ago, for those of us who are watching live, obviously it's Tuesday, just after 1:30. I know a lot of people watch the playback, but I just left the Cowboys locker room, and normally Zeke, Dak, they're always in front of their lockers. Even when you have a big regular season game or Sunday night game, whether it's the Packers or somebody like that. But this week for the playoffs, Zeke was holding court not in front of his locker, but they brought him out to the hallway in front of the Pro Bowl wall because there were about 55 to 60 reporters. And basically they couldn't all crowd around. So they're bringing Dak, Zeke, Amari out to the into the hallway just to accommodate all of the extra media. And then as I was leaving the locker room, the hallway area to get over here for this for this podcast, I bumped into Rod Marinelli, and he was coming back towards his office, and I'm like, oh, were you getting the cryo? Because he gets the cryogenics done here at Cowboys Fit each week. He's like, no, I'm getting ready for Marinelli Madness. And Marinelli Madness is Saturday night. Well, since the game is Saturday this weekend again, Marinelli Madness is the night before the game, so it'll be Friday night at the team hotel in Los Angeles, and it's when he has the defensive team meeting. And Marinelli Madness is when it's a video that he has the Cowboys production team put together. And it's usually wild animals, kind of like a Mutual of Omaha, where the cheetah jumps on the antelope and mauls them, or, because it's about aggressiveness. It's showing, it's visual evidence of what Rod wants from his defensive players in the game the next day. So
and it's unique to every game.
It's unique to every game, and he'll also pull have the production folks, the videographers here with the Dallas Cowboys, pull together different things from different movies. And I've promised Rod not to tell his Marinelli Madness secrets, but these would be very popular action movies, and what they'll do is they'll superimpose a cowboy player's face on maybe in front of over like a Tom Cruise or somebody like that.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, so he said, I'll tell you tomorrow what the theme is going to be. Just know that it's very, very violent.
Well, it's working because the defense is getting it done.
Oh, for sure. They played so well against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and the key was containing that run game, which was the top run game in the NFL, over 160 yards per game, and they just shut down Chris Carson and did a good job of keeping Russell Wilson contained, and started those games with the 3 and outs on defense, and I just think it really set the tone for the entire victory on Saturday night.
That's fabulous.
Did you notice, Kristi, from the sidelines, that this might just have been my enthusiasm, but the players, when they were running, they seemed like they were running louder and faster when they were coming off the sidelines. It's a danger zone for the cheerleaders.
Yes.
But certainly during that first quarter when injuries started happening, but something even seemed more violent when they were flying off those sidelines.
Yeah, well, you talk about the intensity of being ratcheted up in the playoffs. That's something that Zeke was just talking about when he was holding court in outside the locker room just a little bit ago. And I also think that this was about the best home crowd I can remember at AT&T Stadium. Hard to believe it's been 10 years, but what do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
And Nikki, you were at the game.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
It was electric. I mean, it was so loud, and I feel like I love Cowboys fans, but I feel like we're finally getting it. Let's be quiet on offense.
Yes.
Let's just scream till we can't scream any louder on defense.
Yeah, and they've been loud on
harmony,
defense in the past, but I think from before kickoff through the end of the game, and of course it was a good game that went down to the very end, so there was a lot of intensity for the 3+ hours. But I think from start to finish, this is about the best crowd that I can remember at AT&T Stadium. What do you think?
Yeah, without a doubt, the loudest, the best, and the simple rally rag, the white, just the sea of white, just showed unity that was hopefully intimidating.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yep.
Okay, well, here's our first question. Holly from North Dakota. She asked.
Oh, North Dakota.
I know. Right. How is Alan Hurns after his awful-looking ankle injury?
Yeah, well, the wide receiver, Alan Hurns, early in the game, it was a dislocated ankle, and by the time we were getting post-game interviews and Jason Garrett was addressing the team after the game, Hurns was already in surgery. And he's used social media several times to communicate his thanks to his teammates and the organization and to the Cowboy fans for their show of support. And so he's already come through the surgery. And he says he should be back on the field maybe as early as training camp in August or July. So to me, that seems very optimistic. But it was.
It looked. Awful.
It was awful. That's one of the worst injuries that I've ever seen from the sideline. Yeah.
And I saw Kristi's there on the front line. If you don't get to see Kristi during the game, she needs her own camera following Kristi moving around. But she was, right there, and I didn't want to interrupt you doing your job, but I went right up to her and said, "What happened? What is it? What is it?" Because she's
I'm like dislocated. It doesn't take a medical degree to look across the field and see that when a player is facing down and his foot is pointing the other direction, that it's a dislocated ankle. I think we had gotten a question that came in over the weekend.
We did.
Who was it from?
Owen in Richland, Washington.
Owen in Washington. Okay.
Yes, he says in the 20 years of injury reports from the sideline, is Hurns' dislocated ankle the worst you've seen? It was horrible to watch the replay.
Yeah, it's tied because there was another, for me personally, because back in 2000, it was only my second year on the sideline. And it was a preseason game at Texas Stadium, and it was the Steelers. And it was a third-string rookie free agent trying to make the team, a running back for the Steelers, and he's coming right towards us on the sideline. And gets taken down right in front of the Cowboys sideline and suffered a dislocated ankle. It was so similar to Hurns' injury, but I just remember his name. I'll never forget. His name is Destry Wright, and it's burned in my memory. His name right across the back of his jersey, and he's laying face down, and literally he's face down, but his foot, the toes were pointed through the hole in the roof at Texas Stadium. And for him, unfortunately, it was a career-ending injury. This was a kid, again, it's seared in my mind, but Jackson State, which is where Walter Payton, played college ball, and he had broken Walter Payton's college records, and he's trying to make the team in the NFL and never got back. But, the more like long-term, some of the more serious injuries, like when Jason Witten had the spleen, the lacerated spleen.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we had a wide receiver named Ernie Mills, and he goes across the middle, and he catches a pass, and he gets hit, and he goes down, and ended up going to the hospital later that night for a perforated intestine. So injuries like that you can't see, obviously.
Right.
But in terms of gross out factor, Hurns and Destry Wright were definitely the worst. I also remember we had a defensive back in the early 2000s. He was from Lancaster, Texas. His name was Jock Reeves. He was playing special teams, and he came over and to the bench area, and he had suffered a dislocated elbow. Ouch. And Dr. Cooper, just right there, he just popped it back in,
What amazes me is the perseverance of these players to have these types of injuries and then are like, oh, yeah, I'll be back next season.
Yeah.
What? No, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we would all be in the hospital with a hangman,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I hope this guy's back by next week. We really need him.
Oh, God. Perseverance. Okay, we have another one. Lily in Fulshire, Texas. All righty. When Dak made the big play to run up the middle and nearly score at the end of the game, did he improvise on that play, or was that the play called by the coach?
That was a quarterback draw. So a quarterback draw is different from a regular run play or scramble in that the quarterback goes back, he drops back as if he were going to pass, and then he takes off up the middle. So kind of get that move back, kind of give them that look, and when the defense reacts and hopefully a little gap opens up there, then you can shoot up the middle. So there are there are times where Dak is improvising and scrambling. It's a pass play and he drops back and he gets pass pressure and is having to move around and avoid the rush and might take off running or start one way and go the other before he throws it. That would be improvisation. But a quarterback draw is a called play. It's a designed play with specific blocking and things like that. Now, one other thing. Do you remember in the game Saturday night where down near the goal line and Dak threw a fade route in the end zone to Michael Gallup, the rookie receiver, and it was not a good pass. It was incomplete.
Went over him.
It went over him. Way out of bounds and incomplete. Came back on the next play, ran the same thing, a fade route, and hit Gallup for the touchdown. Then Dak was talking post-game about that. Oftentimes a quarterback will get two play calls from, in this case, Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator. And so there'll be like a run play and a pass play. And so when you go up to the line of scrimmage, depending on what the defense shows you, you are going to make the adjustment. So it's going to be a pass, but if you get this, then we're going to change it to a run. Or it might be a run play and you change it to a pass. So that was actually a thing on that second one to Gallup where Dak saw that he was getting the same kind of matchup, and it's just like, okay, we're going to throw the fade again, and it worked that second time.
Interesting. Okay. Jim from Katy, Texas. What are the rules for a drop kick? And why did the Seahawks punter drop kick at the end of the game instead of trying an onside kick?
Had any of you ever seen a drop kick before in a game?
Never heard of it.
Doug, do you remember Doug Flutie? Kelly, you remember Doug Flutie, the quarterback who, the Boston College guy, Heisman Trophy winner, and then he played a lot of years in the league. He had done a drop kick at the end of a game in 2006 when he was playing for the Patriots. It's the end of the season, and just kind of like as a joke, he drop kicked an extra point, to at the end of the game. A drop kick looks like a punt in that you have the ball in your hand, you let it go down. A normal punt, you would not let it hit the ground. You would kick it with your foot. But a drop kick, the ball must bounce, it must hit the ground, and then you kick it with your foot. So a drop kick has been legal for years and years and years. A drop kick is an option on every single kick attempt, whether it's a field goal or an extra point or a kickoff, but nobody does it anymore. And in fact, Doug Flutie, 2006, the last time it had happened in an NFL game was back in 1941, 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor.
Oh my goodness.
Kristi.
So it's
Kristipedia.
Did she know these questions before we started? We're making
that one I did.
Pearl Harbor reference.
That one I did. No, it was 1941. No, I looked it up because I knew. I remember Doug Flutie very vividly because it was such a big deal.
He was cute and short.
Oh, really cute. But I remember him drop kicking it because I was watching that game. But I'm like, I don't think that had happened since the 30s or 40s.
Wow.
So, but the reason why Michael Dixon, the Seattle Seahawks punter, was drop kicking in the second half is because their kicker, Sebastian Janikowski, 19 years in the league, 260 pounds, pulled a leg muscle. It was actually a quad, not a hamstring injury. But he wasn't available in the second half. And Dixon, he went to University of Texas, but he's from Australia. He's actually a Sydney native. And so, the Australian rules football and rugby, like Australian rules football, they can all drop kick,
Yeah. Right.
And so I had a little heads up on the sideline about the drop kicking because John Clayton, who is formerly of ESPN, a lot of people remember John Clayton, the professor from ESPN. Well, he lives in Seattle, and he does the sidelines for Seahawks radio. And he was over on the Cowboys sideline for the game. And Janikowski had actually been missing practice going into their final game in December, and so Dixon was practicing drop kicks that week going into the finale. Really? He didn't do it in a game, but Clayton was telling me, he was practicing drop kicks during the week before the Arizona game. So
he did it on purpose?
Yeah, you do it on purpose because he's a punter, not a kicker. He's not used to kicking with someone, snapping the ball. Snapping the ball back and having someone hold it. Dixon's the holder for Janikowski.
Okay.
He can't hold it for himself.
Right.
It was Russell Wilson, the quarterback, who was going to have to be the holder and take the snap. On a drop kick, there's no snap, there's no hold. The person who's doing the drop kick, has it in their hands at the, and then drops it on the ground and kicks it.
So what did they think the outcome was going to be?
Well,
or were they
on the onside kick, he did the same thing with the kickoff earlier in the second half.
Right.
And the ball went to about the 20-yard line. So on the onside kick, he just kicked it too far. He needed to drop kick it shorter, at about 10 to 15 yards, and make it bounce so that the Seahawks could try to recover. So it was a very poor drop kick for an onside attempt because it went too far in the air, and Cole Beasley very easily caught the ball and downed himself, and there was no chance for the Seahawks to recover the onside kick.
Got it. Okay, that was confusing. I was confused at the game when all that went down. I was so confused.
Yeah.
And when you're there, you don't hear the talking that you hear on the broadcast.
That's why the people who come to the games need to have a headset so they can listen to Cowboys radio.
Agreed.
To Brad and
That's
Babe.
what we do. We sneak in the locker room and we are listening to Kristi, Brad, and Babe and hear.
That's good.
Sure.
Because then otherwise you're confused like me.
No, they're tutors throughout the game.
See, that's good. All righty. Bailey and Nacogdoches.
Hey, we can pronounce Nacogdoches. All right.
Yes. If we win on Saturday, when we win on Saturday, and the Saints win on Sunday, why is next week's game in New Orleans? After all, we beat the Saints this year, so it seems like we should be the team that gets to play at home.
Yeah, the Cowboys did beat the Saints head-to-head earlier in the regular season, but the Saints had the better record and were the number one seed in the playoffs.
Right.
There are 6 teams from the NFC and 6 teams from the AFC, and New Orleans was the best in the NFC record-wise. So they're number one, and the Cowboys were number 4. So if the number 1 team and the number 4 team advance to the NFC Championship game, it doesn't matter that the number 4 team beat the number 1 team in the regular season. It doesn't matter about the head-to-head because the Saints finished with the better record and the top seed, so they get to play at home.
And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
On playoffs, I've had a question from friends that say, why are these upcoming games called the Divisional Championship games? If the division champions have already been determined, how does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's the Divisional Round. And so it's because in the first round, the wild card round, only 2 of the division champions play. Mm-hmm. It's the bottom 4 seeds. There are 6 teams, and number 4 plays number 6. Number 3 plays number 6. Number 4 plays number 5. So you have 2 wild card teams playing at 2 division champion teams. When you get to the divisional round, the second round game, you have the 2 top seeds, the division champions, playing the winners of the wild card round.
Okay.
So it was after realignment and all this kind of stuff. It's, wild card round is the first round. Divisional round is the second round. The conference championship games are next week. So the 2 surviving teams of the AFC meet in the AFC championship game. The 2 surviving teams from the NFC playoffs play in the NFC championships, and the winners meet in the Super Bowl.
Nice. Now,
so I don't know if that totally answers your question, but it's the top 2.
So it's really round 2. It's not necessarily the divisional round. It determines the division champs because those have already been determined.
That's right.
It's not necessarily the division champions playing amongst themselves because you have
a wild card could win.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of I don't know. It confuses the people that were asking me, and I could see how it's confused enough to where I couldn't answer it. I just have known all my life there's wild card, division, conference, Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I could see how that's confusing.
So drop balls are confusing, and divisional championships are confusing, and the Oscars might be confusing if our choices don't win.
So, well, now that we know that Bohemian Rhapsody should win over, I don't think it's going to win the Oscar, but I loved it too.
You loved it too.
Do we have time for any other questions?
We do.
Lightning round.
Well, I have one.
Sure.
So if Philadelphia happens to beat New Orleans, kind of piggybacking off of that last question, then what happens?
If the Cowboys win on Saturday and the Eagles win on Sunday, then the game will be for the NFC Championship will be at AT&T Stadium. It'll be a Cowboys home game because the Cowboys are the higher seed.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's something that's really important about winning your division. If you win the division, you are guaranteed a home game. A wild card, that first round in the wild card,
right?
Those wild card teams, 2 of them in each conference, they have to play on the road.
Okay.
So you had a very unusual thing happen in the AFC this year. You had the Chargers and the Chiefs, both from the AFC West. The Chiefs ended up winning the division, but the Chargers had more wins than any other team in the AFC. They have to go on the road. The Chargers do, and play these teams. Even though the Chargers have a better record, they have to play on the road because they did not win their division. So they have to play on the road.
Okay.
And we can all agree playing against Philadelphia, if we have our choice to play at home versus in Philadelphia, could be
Oh, sure.
Game changing.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's huge to have home field event. And really the thing is, and not just, the spirit of the stadium, and it really has to do with, and the money that you make on concessions and parking and, all the sponsors you can treat to an extra game and all the celebrities are going to be there. The main thing is that when you're at home, you can communicate more easily on offense. Because just what the Cowboys fans were trying to do on Saturday night with the whiteout being so loud when the Cowboys were on defense, you're interrupting the communication of the Seattle offense, maybe even drawing them off sides, causing false starts and things like that, but just making it really hard. And one thing, the way that the Cowboys have improved throughout the year, because remember 3-5, and before they went on the 5-game win streak, there were some issues with communication among offensive line and with the offense. You had Travis Frederick was not starting. You had Joe Looney taking over. Right. You had a rookie, Connor Williams, at left guard. You just had changes in there, and communication is so important because, the offensive line, it's 5 players, but they work as one unit. And so any kind of missed call or missed signal or missed cue as you're looking at the defense and what they're doing pre-snap, any little, miscommunication or not spotting hesitation. I mean, it's a game of milliseconds. One false step, or just a little bit of hesitation can really throw off the entire play. And so that's why it's so important to have home field advantage so that your offense can communicate better.
Now, before we get out of here, I have a question for both of you all. I hear that there are quite a few Cowboys fans in Southern California. And how's this game going to be, in you guys' opinion, on Saturday?
Well, just from taking the DCC out there, because you're at training camp every year in Oxnard. And
well, Oxnard has a huge Cowboys nation.
And it's an hour drive. It's about 40 minutes, but in LA traffic, it could be 2 hours up to Oxnard. But it's just north of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know more about road games than I do. With the cheerleaders, we stay at home.
That's right.
I know less. In fact, I was just on a trip. I was in Mexico with my family. I know it's nice. Subject to go to Mexico during holidays, but I got to see Eagles fans and Bears fans live in a sports bar. And I have got to tell you, in my 30 years with the Cowboys, I have never seen anything quite like that. I'd never heard Fly, Eagles Fly and all of their chants and songs and stuff. And, I can see where some of those traditional home crowds can be intimidating and fun and traditional, and it was crazy. I mean, there were fights starting in the bar about which TV was going to show which game. This was the last game. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I believe it. I love going to Philly. I love Philly because they are so passionate, and everyone complains about it, and sometimes they can. Well, of course they can be rude.
Yes.
But I would go out early to the tailgating.
I don't mind compassionate. I don't like being rude and nasty. I don't like it.
Actually, I do have a souvenir shirt. It's from when it was the first time that the Cowboys played at Philly after Terrell Owens had left the Philadelphia Eagles and joined the Cowboys. So it's T.O.'s first game back in Philly as a member of the Cowboys. And I went out in the tailgating, and oh my gosh, I still have a T-shirt that I bought. It was one of those, what do you call it, like a street, not official merchandise, right?
Yes.
A bootleg shirt, and it's white and Eagles green, and it's T.O. and like the little Chevy and the little Ford symbols where the little boy is doing something to the other symbol. Well, it's that, an Eagle fan on that, and it says you can't spell idiot without T.O.
Oh gosh, see who comes up with that.
It only cost me $5. I thought it was a good deal.
That's funny.
But no, as for Saturday,
yes.
I've heard speculation anywhere from like 40 to 60% of the fans at the Coliseum could be Cowboys fans. And I think it'll be close to half. It is not an intimidating crowd at the Coliseum just because it's laid back California, and that's not their style. But also there are so many fans of the visiting team. And the other thing is, when you play in LA, if you watch the Packers game there this year, you saw so much green and gold.
Absolutely.
It's not just because of displaced people, snowbirds from Wisconsin that have moved to or spend the summer in Southern California or Arizona that go to the LA to support the Packers. It's a destination game for where it's cold in Wisconsin. Let's go see the Packers play. So
Gotcha.
it's just like here where we get a lot of Steelers fans and Packers fans and Chicago fans. It's because AT&T Stadium is a destination as an NFL mecca, and people want to come here to see the stadium and to support their team here. And anyway, LA is a destination place.
Got it. That makes sense.
So, yeah, and also the tickets, the least expensive ticket as of Tuesday morning on NFL Ticket Exchange and SeatGeek and StubHub with the fees was $394 for row 91 in the back of the end zone.
That's a pretty penny.
Yeah, and the seats right behind the Cowboys bench were anywhere from like $680 all the way up to $1,200.
That's gracious.
And somehow people come up with the money, and there's gonna be a lot of blue and silver.
That's gonna be fun.
On Saturday, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yes, it
and
will.
Kickoff is Saturday night at 7:15 Central.
Yes. So watch.
Yeah, and Kelly, thank you so much.
Yes,
you
I
have a
love
score
this, and I've
prediction?
learned some things.
You have a score prediction. I know you're going to pick the Cowboys.
Well, I'm
high
gonna pick the Cowboys.
scoring. Do you think Marinelli Madness in the defense?
No, I don't have a prediction. I just know that, and it's a long story, but I know the number 22 has had a common thread amongst some great internal victories all year long. It's crazy. It's what Meghan Trainor wore at Thanksgiving Day halftime. It's how many cheerleaders we had in our Christmas show. Of course, it's Emmett's number, but it kept coming up so much that I even had the number 22 written in my locker from my opening speech at preliminary audition. So, point of that is there is something about the number 22 that has been magical from my perspective this season.
All right.
Well, 22 better be the Rams score, just like it was the Seahawks score,
Exactly.
because I think the
And
Cowboys
it
are going
showed
to need more
itself-
than that.
No, it showed itself again
Yeah.
this weekend. It's been crazy.
Okay. Well, let's.
That's cool.
Then let's go with Cowboys 31 and Rams 22.
There we
I
go.
like it.
Thanks
like
for joining
it.
us,
Yes,
Kelly.
thank
we really
you. Thank y'all.
appreciate it.
And we got to do our Oscar pre and post.
Well, you know what I thought about when you were talking about Eagles? If the Eagles come here to play the Cowboys in the conference championship,
Will Bradley Cooper?
Bradley
be here?
Cooper comes with the Eagles. He's a big Eagles fan, but I'm just saying, if that happens, we've all got to pull our own strings and make that introduction or a photo op or something
You
happen.
say strings, I'm thinking restraints to keep Kelly off.
I'm sure he'll need a shoulder to cry on after the game.
There you
Yes,
go. Will you
there
be
you go,
willing
Douglas.
to be that shoulder, Kelly?
I would get so
I
would embarrass myself. I'd be so stupid. But I think I'd be more. I think I'd lose it more now after seeing Bohemian Rhapsody. I think I'd lose it more with Rami Malek. I just think he's so talented.
Love it.
Anyway, it's a fun thing to think about. It. We're going to have a Bradley Cooper party if we win,
That's right.
because we'll get to host him here in Dallas.
That's
Love
right.
it. Love
That's
it. Oh,
right.
something. Now I'm really rooting for the Cowboys. All right. Hey, thank you all for joining us right here on everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football on 5 Points Blue.
This has been a production of 5 Points Blue, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.